Deep beneath the Arctic Ocean, under nearly 700 meters of ice, the Seawolf-class fast-attack submarine USS Connecticut was moving in total silence. The mission was supposed to be routine: collect data, remain unseen, and leave no trace. Then, without warning, the general quarters alarm cut through the stillness. The command center shifted into emergency lighting. Red reflections moved across the faces of the officers as fresh sensor data appeared on the screens. At first, no one spoke. The readings showed a massive heat signature beneath the ice canopy, larger than a football field, perfectly stable, and unlike anything ever recorded in that region. It was not drifting. It was not breaking apart. It was not behaving like a natural formation. The target classification system processed the data once, then again, then a third time. The result did not change. Unknown contact. For a submarine crew, those two words can be more unsettling than any confirmed threat. A known object can be tracked, studied, and understood. But something unknown means the crew is facing a situation no manual has prepared them for. At 02:22 hours after confirming that the signal was real, the captain of the USS Connecticut ordered the submarine to move closer. The crew initiated a hover maneuver, guiding the 9,000-ton vessel forward inch by inch until it was only about 40 meters from the ice keel. At that depth, controlling a submarine of that size was like trying to park a heavy truck inside a narrow garage while blindfolded. Every movement depended on instruments, discipline, and trust in the navigation system. One small mistake could send the sail into ice harder than concrete. Once the Connecticut stabilized, the picture became clearer. The heat below was not spreading randomly. It followed organized channels. The surrounding water was being redirected in a controlled pattern, almost as if something beneath the ice was pulling it in, cooling itself, and pushing it back out. Inside the command center, everyone understood what that suggested. Something down there was operating. The Connecticut adjusted depth, remained silent, and continued collecting data. Slowly, the hidden shape began to reveal itself. Embedded within the ice was a structure roughly 360 meters long. Reinforced beams, heavy steel plates, ventilation channels, heat outlets, and support frames appeared in the sonar image like a dark industrial skeleton suspended upside down beneath the frozen ceiling of the ocean. The analysis system began estimating its function. There were multiple docking compartments, large enough to support strategic submarines. There was a compact reactor system producing a low but steady signature. There were environmental controls, circulation systems, and internal spaces large enough to suggest that more than 200 people could live and work inside. For the officers watching the data, the design felt familiar. It resembled the kind of engineering associated with Russian under-ice infrastructure. Rugged, direct, built for pressure, cold, and long-term endurance rather than elegance or flexibility. And the location made the discovery even more serious. The structure was positioned inside one of Russia's most protected Arctic regions, an area closely tied to its strategic submarine patrol routes. Few nations would have a reason to build something there. Even fewer would have the ability. When all the data was combined, one conclusion became difficult to avoid. This appeared to be a hidden Russian installation built directly into the Arctic ice. If true, it was an extraordinary technical achievement. A full-scale under-ice facility, complete with submarine docking areas and a reactor system, suspended beneath the frozen ocean without public announcement, visible construction activity, or clear satellite detection. Building something like this in secret would be like hiding an elephant inside a refrigerator. Difficult to imagine, even harder to explain. At 02:30 hours, the USS Connecticut held steady below the ice canopy. After more than 10 minutes of passive observation, the captain ordered preparations to deploy an unmanned underwater vehicle for closer visual confirmation. Then everything changed. A sharp acoustic pulse swept across the hull. It was short, structured, and powerful. Not random noise, not shifting ice, not machinery failure. Immediately, warning indicators filled the command center. Beneath the massive heat zone, something mechanical began to move. Water pressure shifted violently. The current was forced sideways as if a huge door had opened inside the ice itself. Then it emerged. A dark object pushed out from the hidden gate and moved into open water. It did not glide with the smooth control of a modern submarine. Instead, its stern churned with enormous force, creating a hydraulic disturbance so strong that the Connecticut's sensor arrays began to vibrate. Its speed increased gradually, but with tremendous power. 15 knots, 20 knots, then 28. It made no attempt to hide. It did not move cautiously. It simply drove forward, pushing through the water like a heavy machine breaking free from confinement. The Connecticut's combat data system immediately compared the contact against its library of known acoustic profiles. Every ship, every submarine, every major platform ever cataloged was scanned. The result flashed across the screen. Unidentified class. Using imaging systems and thermal data, the officers realized they were looking at something that did not match any known submarine design. The vessel was about 140 meters long, but its shape was strange. Instead of the sleek profile usually associated with high-performance undersea platforms, this craft looked more like an armored industrial vehicle built for the deep ocean. Its bow was blunt and thick. Heavy external modules lined the sides. The entire design seemed focused on endurance, strength, and raw pulling power. The most unusual feature was at the stern. The vessel used two massive contra-rotating propellers. This configuration is rare on modern attack submarines and suggested one thing immediately. This craft was designed to generate immense torque, possibly to move heavy loads, operate in extreme conditions, or support deep water construction. Its outer hull appeared to be covered in advanced sound-absorbing tiles, reducing active sonar return to an almost impossible level. On the screen, it was less like a vessel and more like a missing space in the water, a true acoustic shadow. Later intelligence assessments would reportedly associate it with Project Y9854, also referred to in some files as K-77H Spectre, a deep-diving platform powered by a high-output liquid metal reactor and designed to operate beyond 1,000 meters. The captain of the Connecticut immediately ordered ultra-quiet procedures. The submarine drifted beneath the broken ice, using the chaotic sounds above to mask its own presence. Every system was controlled. Every unnecessary sound was eliminated. The crew prepared for a close-range undersea encounter. But then the Russian vessel did something no one expected. Instead of turning toward the Connecticut, it drove away at full power. Its twin propellers churned the water into a violent cavitation field. The ocean around it fractured into white acoustic chaos. The sound rolled through the deep like thunder underwater. The massive submarine was not hunting, it was leaving. Russia's most secret under-ice platform, one of the most advanced machines ever detected in that region, was moving into open water as if something behind it mattered far more than the American submarine nearby. Then the Connecticut's radio room received a brief Morse code signal transmitted on a NATO frequency. Only 3 letters. Run. The Russian vessel vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a warning no one on board could fully understand. The crew of the Connecticut had only seconds to process what had happened before a strange sensation began spreading through the submarine. It did not begin as a sound. It began as a vibration, a low-frequency pulse at roughly 7 hertz. Human ears cannot truly hear a frequency that low, but the body can feel it. It presses into the chest, it disrupts balance. It causes nausea, dizziness, and a deep instinctive unease that is difficult to explain. Imagine standing beside a giant speaker at a concert, except instead of music, it releases only a slow pressure wave that shakes the inside of your body. That was what the crew began to feel. The steel deck trembled, coffee cups slid across tables. Even experienced sailors felt a cold pressure crawl through the air. Then the passive sonar display went completely white. The system was overwhelmed. From roughly 600 meters below, a pitch-black shadow began rising. When the computer recalculated the size of the object, the weapons officer looked at the screen twice, convinced the system had made an error. The object was nearly 900 meters long. To understand that scale, consider this. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier is about 330 meters long. This object was almost 3 times that size. It was like seeing a horizontal skyscraper moving through the deep ocean. As it advanced, the amount of water it displaced was so enormous that pressure sensors across the Connecticut's hull triggered warnings. It felt as though the submarine had been caught in the edge of an invisible underwater surge. But the size was not the most disturbing part. The object made no propeller noise. There was no engine pattern, no turbine signature, no reactor hum. It moved in total silence, gliding through the water in a way that challenged everything the crew understood about undersea motion. The Connecticut's spectral analysis system attempted to identify the material of the outer surface. The result made no sense. It indicated traces consistent with element 120. In known science, element 120 is not a stable construction material. It has only been discussed in advanced laboratory and theoretical contexts, where such elements exist for incredibly brief moments before breaking down. Yet the data suggested that a durable alloy containing this material formed part of the outer layer of an object nearly a kilometer long. At that moment, any simple explanation disappeared. This was not a secret project from a known navy. It was not a conventional undersea machine. No country on Earth was known to possess the ability to build a mobile structure of that size using materials that should not exist in stable form. Inside the command center of the USS Connecticut, the silence became complete. No doctrine described what had just appeared. The submarine systems were designed to classify known categories: submarines, surface vessels, underwater vehicles, mines, and natural formations. This object fit none of them. It was not a target in the usual sense. It was not something the crew could meaningfully challenge or escape from. It simply existed beyond the boundaries of every scenario they had trained for. The captain did not order pursuit. He did not order a dramatic retreat. He gave one instruction: record everything. Because in that moment, the crew understood something deeply unsettling. The hidden Russian installation was not the center of the mystery. It was only a human structure built near something far larger. The enormous object did not react to the Connecticut. It showed no interest in the Russian base. It made no defensive movement, no aggressive approach, no attempt to communicate. It simply passed through the area as if both submarines, both nations, and both human systems were minor details in a world it had occupied long before anyone arrived. When the nearly kilometer-long shadow finally disappeared from sensor range, pressure around the Connecticut slowly returned to normal. The low vibration faded. The water settled. And the silence that followed felt more powerful than the noise. Now the earlier events began to make sense. The Russian base had not been built on the seabed, but suspended beneath the ice. Their heavy submarine was not designed only for patrols, but possibly for moving equipment, maintaining infrastructure, or monitoring something deeper. And K-77H Spectre had not left because of the American submarine. It had left because of what was rising beneath both of them. Moscow was not merely protecting a secret installation from foreign observation. It may have been watching something below the ice that it could not control, but could not ignore. The USS Connecticut eventually departed the area without being followed. All collected data was encrypted at the highest level and sent to Washington through secure channels. The first officials to review the report issued no public statement, no press briefing, no denial, no explanation. Only one quiet directive followed: maintain presence beneath the Arctic ice, but avoid direct contact with the unidentified object. For the people who were there, that patrol changed the way they saw the ocean forever. The Arctic was no longer just a blank space on a map. It was no longer only a frozen arena where powerful nations competed for influence. It became a reminder that humanity, despite its submarines, satellites, reactors, and hidden installations, is still only a visitor in a world much deeper, darker, and older than we like to admit. The Russian base, the American submarine, and even the tense encounter between them were only small pieces of a picture humanity does not yet fully understand. Beneath hundreds of meters of ice, the ocean continues to move by its own rules. It does not care about borders. It does not recognize flags. It does not follow military doctrine. And sometimes it allows us to see just enough to ask questions before pulling the answers back into the dark. Before we close, it is important to make one thing clear. The story you just heard is a hypothetical scenario built from real military concepts, real Arctic conditions, real undersea technology, and geopolitical reasoning, combined with imagination for analysis and entertainment. But history has shown again and again that hypothetical scenarios can sometimes point toward real questions. And one question remains: how much do we truly know about what is moving beneath the ice? If this analysis helped you imagine what the future of undersea operations might look like, support the channel and stay for more stories built on military knowledge, strategic thinking, and careful speculation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.